Have you always known that you're on a soul path? And have you wondered how to gain real insight into the steps along your own unique journey? Welcome everyone, I'm Sarah Main, and thank you for joining me on Damayanti, the show for your soul. I'm so glad to have you along. Damayanti means peace and calm. Damayanti sheds a light for your soul through the wisdom that shines in the universal language of Sanskrit. Damayanti is the show that speaks to your soul, connects with your soul, and enriches your soul. Join me now on Damayanti, the show for your soul, and be inspired and uplifted by the beautiful light of this profound, timeless wisdom. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Damayanti, the show for your soul with me, Sarah Main. And today, in today's show, we're going to be talking about the path from ordinary to extraordinary. And we're actually talking about the path, the actual path itself, because there's characteristics and features and experiences that are sort of common. There are common elements to it. It'll be experienced slightly differently for everyone, but there are some common elements, and it's really good to just have an awareness around it. Otherwise, you just don't quite know what's happening to you and to your experiences and life in general. So if you've felt like you've awakened to another dimension of life, that there's just more to it than the ordinary 3D experience, but you haven't quite got comfortable with the word spiritual, you're worried what your friends and family might think, this is what I'm going to address today specifically. So let's get into it, because you are really a spiritual soul dressed as a human being. And there's a quote sometimes attributed to Wayne Dyer, sometimes to other people. So basically no one actually knows definitively who said it. But this is a quote that says, you are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And look, it's a cute saying. It's sometimes on T-shirts and mugs, but it is actually reality. And sometimes that experience is not always comfortable. And it's good to just have an understanding of what's happening, so you're not too hard on yourself or you don't give up. So just consider this, in whatever way it's happened. Have you started to question, started to search and look beyond your ordinary everyday experience of life? Do you feel like something has awoken in you? Do you feel that you're experiencing a disorientation with your self-image? You thought of yourself and felt yourself as one way, and now that's changed. It may not have changed radically, but it's just like there's a slight kink in your perception of your self-image, and there's this disjunct and this disorientation. Are you uncomfortable with the typical perception of what you're being from the inside being drawn towards? You don't know how to explain it, you know, and there's these uncomfortable terms, that slightly pejorative terms that people use, like, oh, that's all herbal, that's just vegan, or that's all just unicorns, it's the soft option, you're off with the pixies, it's all woo-woo, kooky, anti-science, crystals, fairies, chanting, you're not in the real world, and it goes on and on and on. You know it's real, but you struggle with how to explain it, and you're faced with all that loud chatter that can smack you in the face, frankly, verbally and psychologically, like the unicorn, soft option, woo-woo and all of that. And you just don't know what to do and what to say sometimes. Do you struggle to find the words to describe what you're experiencing? Do you feel uncomfortable using the word spiritual? And I mean, what does spiritual even mean? You know, there's all sorts of things like that going on. But at the same time, are you excited by all the new things you're discovering and experiencing? You're getting new understandings. You might be trying new inner practices. Perhaps you've taken up meditation. There's new experiences in general. You've chosen to adopt some new habits, nothing radical, but you're, seeking to establish some new habits and make better choices. You might be having a new outlook on life. You've got lots of questions. You're reading things. You've got fewer answers than you do questions. That's a good thing. You've got a new energy and a new enthusiasm and a new lightness of being. And in some respects, a new peace and calm and steadiness is there. Just a general higher vibration and positive energy. So you've got those two things going on. And then you can feel like you're on in Australia and in England and New Zealand, we call it a seesaw, but I think in America it's referred to as a teeter-totter. Do you sometimes feel like you're on that play equipment going up and down all the time, steady one day and all over the place the next? Like I say, you've got so many questions and fewer answers. And sometimes do you feel there's not many people to whom you can ask those questions? And do you feel that you can't really talk to your friends, regular friends that you used to talk to easily about things? All of a sudden, you've got these new experiences, this new dimension, these new discoveries, and you can't really talk to them about it. It's not that it's private and secret. It's just a different dimension. And sometimes you feel like you don't quite fit in anymore in situations where you may have before. And even you might feel a bit alone, but not in a bad way, just a little bit alone. So all of these are characteristics of this shift in perception. And it's a shift within yourself where we're actually beginning to awaken, and the consciousness is actually evolving. The consciousness is always and everywhere, ever present and complete, whole, pure, perfect. That's your essence. But we're awakening from like a slumber, and it happens, this awakening, we call it an awakening. In Sanskrit, it's called a shubhecha, which means a good impulse or a good desire. And it's like an inspiration. It appears out of nowhere, and it can be from something you've read. And it could be something you've read randomly. It could be something you've seen online or on TV, something someone said, or it can be an event in life. You may have experienced, for example, a loss of someone close, and it's sort of shocked you in some way or other, and you start to question, but there's some impulse, some new energy has entered. And it's a little bit like the mirror cracks, and it'll never go back. So you have this situation where you're just not quite sure that how you perceived the world is in fact how it is. So this is the path. I'm talking about the actual path and the characteristics and nature of this. A lot of people don't really realize what's happening to them. And I'm helicoptering out of that day-to-day experience, that granular experience, and giving you an overview, because it will just help things. This soul path that you're on, actually, excuse me, this soul path, it will just make it easier, and you'll have greater understanding for yourself and everyone else what the situation is. So we've had this sort of, we'll call it an awakening, right? And then you are confronted with this societal judgment of that. It's covered in Plato's cave, where Plato says the prisoners in the underground cave, if one is freed and he goes up above ground and realizes that there is actually reality beyond that bondage in the cave, and he seeks to go back, it's natural, and liberate his friends in the cave, they would see him as being deluded and turn on him if they were freed, and seek to sort of stop him and silence him. And that's the sense you get when, you start talking about these things and people talk about woo-woo, and this is an entirely familiar experience in my case. And so you tend to just not say anything, and that's fine within itself. But then sometimes you do want to find someone who understands, and that's then a new challenge. So just realizing that this is normal, it's natural, it's not a problem, but it is an experience, and to embrace that experience and understand that it's all okay. You're not going nuts. And by the same token, those that may sort of, those that are quick to say, oh, it's all pixies and woo-woo and not in the real world and all that sort of stuff, not to judge them harshly, just understand that they literally cannot see what you're seeing, and that's not a problem. It doesn't make you better, doesn't make you higher. It's just now the responsibility is on you to have the greater understanding that they don't understand, and that there is discomfort in the experience. It's not necessarily your problem, and it's certainly not to blame anyone else who doesn't understand. It's just the situation, and that's why helicoptering out and having a sort of blue sky view over the situation takes out the judgment and the push and the misunderstandings that you can have of your own experience and anyone else who isn't part of that experience. And you do have, I find, a greater appreciation and gratitude for those people that you discover along the way who are in the same company as you, that do understand, and you have shared interests and shared experiences, because they're just moments to savor and enjoy and see as a blessing. And they are there, and they often are presented just at the right time. You don't actually need to be talking about this all day and every day like you did, chat to your friends about everyday things. These sorts of things you don't need to be talking about all the time. The work goes on within. So that is just an orientation, a blue sky view about the situation, and acknowledging it, validating it, not getting stuck in it, and certainly not judging yourself or anyone else. So with that picture, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about moving beyond the comfort zone and stepping free of the fear, and what's really going on with this soul path that you've awoken to. So we'll be back shortly after the break. Welcome back. Welcome back to Damayanti, the show for your soul. And today we're talking about this pathway of the ordinary to the extraordinary, when we've woken from just ordinary life and suddenly there's other dimensions, and they are real. They're not just sort of vague ideas. You actually experience them, and it's within your lived experience, and there's this energy to discover more. And I'm talking about this path itself, and you are moving from the ordinary experience of life, the 3D experience, to the extraordinary, the 5D, if you like, the limitlessness that is your true nature. But there's an awakening, and there's an apparent journey to evolve this. And once the inspiration has hit, then you can't sort of stop it, really. It's just an energy that carries you along, and you want to discover, you want to ask questions and learn more and put things into practice and evolve. So let's just address now the actual path itself, moving from the sort of ordinary to the extraordinary, is like moving out of a comfort zone into beyond the comfort zone, excuse me, beyond the comfort zone to the limitlessness and the greatness and the magnificence of your true nature, which is here now. You are that. You are magnificent. You are limitless. You are sovereign. You are powerful. That is your true nature. The wisdom traditions talk about this, but we don't always experience it that way. And that's natural. And that's what the path is about, moving from the ordinary to the extraordinary. And that's not a big ego trip. This is, there's a lot to be said about personal responsibility in that, which I'm going to cover in my next show. So imagine, I have a diagram, and I'm actually talking to the diagram. So if you're listening to this as a podcast, imagine a set of concentric circles starting from smaller within, moving to without. And the inside of the circle is your comfort zone. And within that, in our normal everyday life, we move around with a degree of efficiency and confidence and competence. We're not walking into trees all the time, and we can actually look after our families, and we have jobs, and we participate in society and with our families, and we have relationships and all of that. So we are functional. We're not dysfunctional. Generally speaking, this is what I'm talking about. But this is a comfort zone. We feel ourselves. It's part of our self-image, right? This is a form of homeostasis. It is our set point, right? But that efficiency, from a broader perspective of your limitlessness, the extraordinary, that is an efficiency and a competence and a confidence within a certain barrier, right? There's a wall around it, if you like. It's an energetic wall. And then if we awaken and we feel like we are actually on a path of discovery to greater consciousness, higher awareness, greater inner freedom, limitlessness, universality, we feel that we're on this path, right? And so we start, and at first it's fantastic. And then we start really hitting some energetic barriers. We can feel an increase in negative feelings. We can hit some sort of more fundamental blockages like blame or apathy, where we just, I can't get myself motivated anymore. It's like you've got lead in your boots, and you just want to go back to where it was comfortable. Now, note the wording, it's comfortable. It's where you could just operate and you weren't bothered by all of this. You're aware of fears of things that you weren't aware of before. You may find things that trigger anger in you, and lots of excuses. It could be the weather, it could be someone, family member, or a co-worker, or some sort of community organization, or friends, or what someone said, or what you ate. There's all these excuses. And like I say, there's no judgment here. It's just understanding the landscape, because we're actually moving through some energetic barriers that would keep us and would drive us, depending, once we hit, we pursue this and are not going to be put off. Everything about these energetic barriers would drive us back into that comfort zone where we would want to go back to sleep, as it were, because it's like we've woken up. And it would drive us back into that that comfort zone of life. And it was fine before. And it's like the mirror's cracked and you can't put it back together again. So it's an interesting thing. And people do just close down. It's just too hard. The energy runs out. The habits reassert themselves. But for you, if you want to stay on this path, that's why I've called this show The Path from Ordinary to Extraordinary, because I'm actually talking about the path itself. And this is part of the path, and this is a common experience. Everyone will experience it slightly differently, but it's understanding the path that you're traveling on. So you can actually feel an increase in negative feelings, feel like you're going backwards. It's worse, but that's only because you're becoming more aware. You're actually evolving, and it's actually a good thing, because you're aware of these negative things. A lot of the time, these were subconscious. And by definition, that means they're below your general consciousness. You were not aware of them. They were there, all right, but you just weren't aware of them. So now there's this, you're experiencing an increase in negative feelings. Whoa, that's not what you signed up for. Well, you need to keep going. You need to keep going. You need to keep going. That's where drilling down into persistence, perseverance, resilience, those kind of qualities is often needed at this point. Resolution, no, I'm not going to be put off. And addressing these negative feelings, these triggers, these tendencies that we have, feeling them, being present to them, releasing them, letting them go, any past things, and just keep going. And it could feel pretty tough, but beyond that is your freedom. And it's a case of you've got to do the difficult. And sometimes it's not, and I'm making it out to seem tough, but you do meet days where it's hard. You feel sort of almost inwardly under attack sometimes. And I've met that in my life. And believe you me, I've had the advantage from a young age of meditation. I've had the blessings of meditation and wisdom. You know, I've had every benefit in that regard. And yet the inner work goes on regardless of that. That just doesn't give you a hall pass and a free pass to everything. You still need to do your own inner work. And it's work only you can do. And that's where your evolution and your greatness is discovered, in that inner work. And it's not fancy. It's not glamorous. No one comes and pats you on the back and gives you a medal and a bunch of flowers and a trophy. This is inner work you do yourself. And you need to get comfortable with that. And it's not, sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder, but you need to keep walking on the path. And if there are things that come up, asking yourself questions like, what is going on here? Why am I experiencing this? And it's not a why like I shouldn't. What is bringing this experience within my field of experience now? What am I doing that's contributing to this? And this is not being hard on yourself. It's taking responsibility, because if you understand what the wisdom traditions are saying, whatever we're experiencing is a reflection of the inner to the outer, as within, so without. So it's taking that level of responsibility, which I'm going to talk about in my next show, which is moving from this state of victimhood into the mindset of the victor, from victim to victor. And that's a clear choice and process of change. So you need to just keep going and understanding that there's nothing wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. This is absolutely par for the course. It goes without saying, you will meet things, and you need to meet them. They need to be cleared out. You need to weed the garden, and you need to address these things, feel them, be present to them, bring love to them, bring approval to them, and yet let them go and release them. And they're forms of energy, and they do need that sort of level of attention, acknowledgement, and then release. You learn a lot more about yourself. You grow, and you grow in understanding and compassion, and you then can experience your greater power, your inner power, your creativity, your freedom, your growth. And that's really the spiritual being having a human experience. So it's all okay. In summary, it's all okay. There are no problems. And understand that every single effort you make on this path is never, ever lost, no matter how hard it can be sometimes. No effort is ever lost, no matter how bad the day you're having. Keep going and never, ever give up. Perseverance, persistence, resilience, resolution is sometimes exactly what's needed, and strength. And practice steadiness and stillness every day. Just have a moment. If you don't have a regular meditation practice or something, practice being steady and still. And in my book, Conscious Confidence, I put in an anchor exercise, and that is learning to just have that access to steadiness, so that when you're in the middle of the maelstrom within, and you might be at work and you've got some anchor within yourself, because it will pass. Like every storm, it will pass. This is just energy that's coming up, needing to be released. So my next show I'm going to be doing is all about taking responsibility, and it's wake up and get out of BED, bed. BED stands for blame, excuses, and denial. It's moving from victim to victor. So if you want to know more about Damayanti for your soul, go to my website, damayanti.store, damayanti.store. And I'm also on all the socials, Facebook and Instagram, and you can catch up with me there. If you have any questions, drop me a question. And check out previous podcasts as well. And I'll finish with some Sanskrit now. It's the beautiful peace prayer from the Yajurveda. In heaven, peace, peace in the space between. On earth, peace. On the waters, peace. In plants, peace. In trees, peace. Peace in all powers. In spirit, peace. Peace in everything. Peace alone, peace. Peace, peace, peace. And the Sanskrit. Om Dhyau Shanti, Antarikshan Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Apa Shanti, Oshadhaya Shanti, Vanaspataya Shanti, Vishwe Deva Shanti, Brahma Shanti, Sarvang Shanti, Shanti Reva Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you for spending time with me on Damayanti, the show for your soul. To find out more about Damayanti, or to get my book, Conscious Confidence, Use the Wisdom of Sanskrit to Find Clarity and Success, or to purchase my range of beautiful spiritual jewelry, go to my website, damayanti.store. That's DAMAYANTI.store. Damayanti.store. See you next time.